Arc is arguably the strongest it has been in quite some time with the addition of Bolt Charge. As a result, we are doing a Shinobu's Vow build, an old exotic from Curse of Osiris. Basically, you're going to have 2 charges, and also, depending on how many hits you get, you're going to get a percentage of that energy back, 4.2% to be specific. And we're going to enhance that, of course, through our armor mods, as well as our aspects and fragments. But before we do get into the specifics of the build, if you have been enjoying the build videos, please do consider subscribing, as about 98% of people who watch these videos aren't subscribed. It's free, it's easy, and I would appreciate it a lot. But without further ado, let's get into the build. So the nice thing about this build is there's really a variety of ways that you can build Bolt Charge, and a variety of ways that you can unleash it. As I mentioned in my previous Arc Lucky Pants build with Hunter, Bolt Charge is really difficult to do properly on other classes because Titan just does it so well. I mean, you put your barricade down and it is great. I'm not saying that it needs to be nerfed or anything, it's really just awesome, really good time. But finding different ways to proc Bolt Charge and to build it really fast is actually kind of fun, and is something I've enjoyed doing. But however, if you're looking for a Titan build, there are so many out there. You can just type in Titan Bolt Charge build, and it's quite literally just Storm's Keep with Lemon, or maybe even Thorn, like I mentioned in the Lucky Pants build video. Thorn is really good. Osteo might be another solid option as well. Anarchy and Mountaintop is another strong combo. But with this, it's more of an ability-focused Bolt Charge build. With our skip grenades, like I said, these are enhanced. The more hits you get, the more energy you're going to get back. You're also going to have Tempest Strike, which is going to give you a way to jolt. And jolt is a huge part of this build as well. We'll get into more ways we're going to do that alongside Ascension as well as Tempest Strike. I really like using these 2 aspects because even though we are going to use Combination Blow, it's going to be on there. I personally don't like using it that much. It's kind of like a dead horse with Hunters at this point because Combination Blow builds are so good, whether it's with Liar's Handshake or the class items with some combination of Synthos Caliban or Synthos something else, or Calibans and Liars. It's been overdone and quite literally beaten to death. So using these different aspects is quite fun, especially because you can proc Bolt Charge with Tempest Strike and Ascension, and not to mention Ascension gives you Amplified, which just makes you ridiculously fast. And using these abilities is also going to build up Bolt Charge if you don't already have it stacked up. So for how to use these abilities so that you can try to get them back in a meaningful manner or get a loop going, is I would do as I do in this gameplay or something along these lines. So basically you throw a grenade so that you get the hits to proc the Shinobu's Vow stuff. Then you're going to go do your Tempest Strike because that is going to proc Impact Induction to give you a little bit of grenade energy back. And then you can do an Ascension to get your Tempest Strike back and either use your weapons to get some Ionic Traces going and just keep that loop going. Reminder, if you do use Ascension in your enemies, you will obviously get your Tempest Strike back since we are using the Gambler's Dodge with this build. And yeah, aside from that, you should have Bolt Charge stacking pretty quickly with this build. And yeah, for our super, pretty obviously we're using Gathering Storm. There are plenty of builds out there with Gathering Storm at this point. It's probably the best Hunter super, even though Arc Staff is pretty good now with Raiden Flux, which maybe I'll put my own build video up with that, but again, there are a lot of builds out there already. Kind of feel like, again, beating a dead horse with that. But, you know, this was one that I love Shinobu's Vow, and I really wanted to put this out there and mess around with it. Of course, for our fragments, we're going to start off with probably one of the most important ones, and that is Spark of Shock. Your arc grenade jolts targets. Of course, we're going to be throwing our grenade quite often. This does knock down your discipline, but it's still worth it. Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target or defeating a target with Bolt Charge creates an Ionic Trace. Ionic Traces are going to give you some sweet ability energy as well as getting more bolt charge, which is just a nice thing. Spark of Discharge, which by the way, I would like to thank Duke. I don't know how to say the last part here, but I'm gonna put the comment on screen. I totally forgot this fragment existed, or maybe I just have rarely used it since the changes. But yeah, this one's really strong. Obviously, we're going to be using a lot of arc weapons with this build because of this fragment, but arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace. Again, more ability energy. Collecting an ionic trace grants you a stack of bolt charge, so just more free bolt charge. Again, thank you, Duke, for bringing that up. Appreciate that. Spark of Recharge is also a pretty important one here. While critically wounded, the goal isn't to be critically wounded, but if we are, we're going to get our melee and grenade energy back pretty quickly, which is a nice thing. This one is interchangeable. There are some other good options in there. You can put on Spark of Amplitude, so you can get some more orbs of power while you're amplified. Spark of Volts is a solid option if you're going to be doing a lot of finishers. Spark of Feedback if you want some more resil and some extra melee damage. Spark of Frequency would also be another option. While I was using this build, I was getting bolt charge pretty often, so I didn't feel like I needed the increased stacks of bolt charge. But this could be a way to elevate that, and maybe once this season is over and you don't have the many artifact mods that help you with bolt charge, this would fit in more nicely, since again you're not going to have as many ways to get bolt charge. At least I don't think you will. Next season might be a different kind of rework, or whatever they decide to do in Frontiers with certain subclasses. So yeah, that might slot in better than Spark of Recharge. And lastly, we have Spark of Resistance, which is just a nice little thing. Again, you can switch this out if you're in lower tier stuff, because you probably won't need the extra resist for any of the ones I just previously mentioned. But yeah, now for weapons. The current loadout you can see me with is mostly because of the champions that are in the Lost Sector that I'm showcasing this build in. So Tenacious is just really strong. It's great for overload. But another good combination is Midnight Coup and Delicate Tomb, because Delicate Tomb is going to make a bunch of ionic traces, not to mention we have Particle Recon in the Tablet of Ruin. Midnight Coup, simply for the fact that Indomitability is such a good origin trait for this build specifically. If you have a good Blast Furnace, that would slot in nicely here as well. And I think honestly Watchful Eye is just so good. I have two different roles of this, one with Jolting Feedback because it fits in with this build so nicely. If you want to, you can of course use one with Rolling Storm instead, but I like the Jolting Feedback one for this build specifically because it's another way to overload. You're going to be able to overload champions with this outside of this season, if you are watching it outside of Heresy. And the Jolt is just, it's nice. We're going to be constantly amplified, so Eddy Current will be procced pretty much all the time. The previous loadout here, again, is also really strong. I love Lodestar. Lodestar is so nice. It sounds cool, it looks cool, and it has some really strong debuff capabilities. So when you get your arc alignment juiced up, which is just filling up the bar in the bottom left-hand corner, you can long press to jolt, and it's very strong. Not to mention that you are also going to be able to blind on final blows, which is just really strong as well. This thing is so nice. I'm in love with it. But this worked really well in the Lost Sector. As you will see, I was able to smoke through everything except the final boss. Right, and here are the armor mods. We're gonna have an arc siphon on, so our final blows, or our rapid arc final blows, will make some of those juicy orbs so that we can proc our recuperation and innervation, because if arc builds lack anything, it is of course healing, so we're going to need that recoup, and innervation of course to help us with our skip grenade recharge rate, and ashes to assets to give us some super energy on those grenade kills, grenade kickstart, so we can get some more energy in there, impact induction, because we're either going to be using combination blow or tempest strike to get some of our grenade back, and firepower to make orbs. And then we also have Elemental Charge on because we're going to be getting a ton of Ionic Traces. So that's going to give us an armor charge, or at least a chance to get an armor charge. We have Bomber on because we're going to be using Ascension quite a bit. That'll give us some Grenade Energy as well. Powerful Attraction, as always, is basically on every single build that I have. But if you want to build more into the Grenade Energy, then Double Bomber is certainly an option as well. If you're having survivability issues, you could switch to Healthy Finisher, but honestly, I wouldn't do that. I think Recuperation is good enough. If it is an issue for you, do double Recoup and maybe double Bomber to make up for the lack of Innervation. And then, of course, Utility Kickstart, which you could also switch out with Time Dilation. You could put Reaper on there instead as well, or even Distribution as well. There are plenty of solid options there as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the armor mods. As you can see, for the relevant artifact mods, we have Overclock and Load. You can pause to read the description there. Basically all of the arc ones like Dielectric, I would certainly recommend. And this one here, Defibrillating Blast, please, 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 Bungie, I ask you to consider adding this as either a fragment. I think it would be a fragment, right? This would be so amazing because Arc lacks a lot of healing. It basically has very little healing, right? Combination Blow is probably the best healing that you can get. Obviously, Titans have Knockout, right? But Warlocks don't have that much, and Hunters, again, just have Combination Blow, right? Which is a very high risk, high reward thing. But this would be a nice way, I think, for Warlocks, honestly, to get in on that healing. And, you know, if you don't want to use Combination Blow, this is a safer way to do that. So, I think that would be cool. It would definitely make Arc more viable. I know some people have been asking for that. Maybe it's a little too much because Bolt Charge is strong, but maybe they can balance it within reason and maybe make a way to increase that healing either through an exotic or something along those lines. But yeah, a lot of cool arc stuff in the artifact that builds into this. But if you're using this build outside of Heresy, it should still be pretty strong. But yeah, this build is super fun. You're going to be able to jolt pretty much anything and everything. You can definitely change this up and have like Disorienting Blow on and create some Blinding Explosions as well if you want to have more of an unstop build. And again, you can switch to the Fusion Rifle Delicate Tomb instead if you are facing unstops. So there is some versatility in that, and you'll still be making a crap ton of Ionic Traces. In fact, it might even be better with Delicate Tomb instead. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this build. Again, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of these videos. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.